Geno Smith, QB5 last year, 399 completions, 572 attempts. We're going to round it up and call it a 70% completion percentage, 4,282 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 86 rushes, 366 yards, and 1 touchdown. Thoughts on Geno Smith?
Currently going off the board at quarterback 15. I do think there's some value there, much like Jared Goff, right? Like it worked well for this offense. He was able to move the offense, used his legs just enough to kind of get you some of those nice little bonus points there on the ground. But I think the recipe's there, right? I think the recipe's there to be knocking on the door at QB 10 or a little bit higher. So there's some value there. Yet another guy to look at. If you're waiting on quarterback, don't be afraid to look at Geno Smith, Jared Goff, like we talked about earlier. He has more weapons now than what he had last year between Charbonnet and JSN. They're still developing their offensive line. So all these things are in his favor, right? So he got a little bit of a contract, right? A little bit of kind of a prove it deal, but he's got a chip on his shoulder and he's a pro. He's been around, he understands, and he might just be one of those late bloomers, right? Kind of the Kurt Warner type. It didn't work very early on in his career. Had to sit behind some people, learned a lot of things, was a sponge, kind of never rested on his laurels, if you will. And then when he got his shot, he's made the most of it. So I like Geno. I know the name value of it kind of scares you off, and that's pushing him down draft boards a little bit. But if you're willing to not necessarily take that gamble, but if you're willing to look past the name, there is value there that you can capitalize on.
I like Geno Smith. I think you're going to get massive return on where he's going. And I think that he's honestly, like, if I'm faced with the choice of a Geno Smith or an Aaron Rodgers right now, I'm probably leaning towards Geno Smith, and he's going a couple spots in front of Aaron Rodgers. So like, I just think that there's more value there with Geno, with what he can do, especially with his legs. He did do just enough with his legs that he did. And he'll keep the interceptions. I think he'll keep the interceptions number down. I think the touchdown number, stays the same or maybe even improves a little bit. But I just think that Geno Smith is another sound, if you're in that 2 QB league and you want to take the flyer on one of those rookies, you can have old reliable there, much like we did say of Jared Goff.
You're drafting him at his absolute floor. I don't see that he's going to return value less than about QB 15, 16 when the season's all done. I very well think that you're going to see him get to be a back end QB1 when it's all said and done here, to the point where, not going to surprise me when we look up and we see him finish ranked, QB 8, 9, 10, somewhere kind of in that range. So tremendous value. Will be a guy, certainly a guy that I'll be looking to add on there, even in single QB leagues, just from the standpoint that I can build out a roster to it, and Geno can get me the consistency and get me, the points where I need them, to the point where, it's not going to be, razzle dazzle, but he's certainly not going to necessarily lose me a week.